Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Moshe product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode, Moshe and I are excited to be speaking with founder and author Tedde van Gelderen about how the experience thinking framework can help product people with their work. Let's dive in.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Tedder. How are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
We're doing good. And Tedde is another +1 for Toronto guests. Sorry for that, Matt. We have a run in.
Yeah, no, I'm losing over here on the US side.
Yes. Well, we have some great people in Canada, so what can I do? So, Tedde, welcome to the show. You have a lot under your background from UX experience design. That's the main thing that you're doing. Your company that you founded, Akendi, that's the main thing you guys are doing. And you also wrote the book, Experience Thinking, Creating Connected Experiences, which I have it in my hand. So it's hard to show in audio version, but we will put links also to this to the book in the description, so people can find out about the book and get it. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed reading it. It's not just the design of the book. It's not just really appealing, and you can see there is a lot of thought put into it, but also the content itself. But before that, tell us a bit about yourself and about your background.
Yeah, no, thank you. So my name is Tedde van Gelderen, Tedde van Gelderen. It's Dutch, so I always have two versions. And I came to Canada 24 years ago now, and I've been working in the UX space, user experience space, and CX space for over 30 years now. And I've been always looking at ways to improve the experience from the human side. So my background is in psychology, and it's in cognitive psychology specifically, and it's learning about people and how can you take that learning into better products. That's really in short what I do, and it's luckily the space has been growing a lot in the last couple of decades, and many more people are engaged in this. And when I did my degree in the 90s, it was a still an emerging field, I would say. Lots of people talked about it, but there was very little formal education and knowledge around it, and it's been growing ever since. So that's my background. The business side of things, I was always interested in trying to make sure people are getting the best of what UX has to offer, and so I decided. Basically spurred by a layoff to start my own business, and thinking that consulting and working with teams would be the fastest way to spread the word and to get more people and more products changed and for the better. And so I even though I have worked for almost a decade in large organizations, I know what they look like and what they feel like, but I thought consulting is it for me, and I haven't regretted it ever since. It's been 17 years now for Akendi, so I've been doing it forever in my mind.
Amazing.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and on the pod, we're always interested to get tools and more knowledge to product people, and many of us in product do have a lack of teams working with people that really know how to do these things. And when I'm saying knowing how to do these things, it's not just the product, because product is only part of it, and you always have to work with engineering and with design and with the rest of the organization, all of your stakeholders, etc. So we did talk in the past about UX and about wireframing and about different things like that. But what really intrigued me with the way you're talking about these things, and also with your book, is that it's about an experience. It's not just about the product, and it's not just about the interface, and it's not just about the user experience or the UX part of that we always think about, but it's a much more holistic approach. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, and that spurred the creation of the book basically, and to start to put it on paper because the reason why I talk about experiences and not products, not to downplay products. I mean, products are immensely important, obviously, and they they are a big part of that experience. But we all know that products don't live in a vacuum. They don't sit there by themselves. They are not used by themselves. They are used in a way that's going to connect with other products or other services and other experiences that people have. And we all know that intellectually, logically, but we don't necessarily design for that. And that was really one of the core reasons why I started to look at so what about that? Why aren't we talking more about the connectedness of all these experiences and making sure that the experience is looking at the holistic view of the product sits within a context. Multiple products likely sit in a context. Services sit in a context, and we don't really talk about that. We tend to simplify our worlds, which I get as well, because we're trying to be cognizant of timelines and making sure that stuff gets out the door. So you have to focus and you have to choose and you have to narrow it down, and that's where people end up talking about products mostly. But but can't forget the other part, and so that was one real big thought I had around that why aren't we talking more about that, even down to the UI level. Nowadays, lots of people make the distinction between UX and UI, where people talk about UI, which is basically the screen, if it's about digital or the physical product interaction, and then the UX is more the journey thinking, or more the strategy work, or more the research work, or more the prototyping work. And so I never really liked that distinction, because I'm going, yes, that's true, but UI is immensely important. I mean, if the screen doesn't work, then the whole product doesn't work, then the whole thing doesn't work. So it's too narrow. And why do we keep falling over each other about those definitions, as opposed to having the real conversation is, my product sits in an ecosystem, sits in a context, sits within ultimately a bigger whole. What do we do about that? And that was step number one, really, in my thinking. And then the next thing was, so what about our processes to get there? And as you know, of course, very well, in product design and product management, there are not a ton of processes. There are, but there are a lot of PM-like. They're project management mostly, and now at Scrum we have a bit more of other words that we use, and we have product owners now. We have a bit of structure around that. Well, when it comes to the experience, whether it's customer experience, user experience, client experience, member experience, citizen, any dot experience, it really didn't seem to have a really good process that covers all these different types of experiences that we really have. So, because what I would say and what I would argue is that a lot of the design processes out there focus on that product, focus on the UI, focus on the experience you have very concretely with that product, not so much in the context of. And so that's a challenge. And I thought, well, because the reality is more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it also from the perspective of maturity. Engineering is very mature. We started developing software for a long time ago. We didn't know anything about products back then. We didn't know anything about design of the interface back then. Well, many products did not have even ability to create much design there. It's whatever the limitations we had to work with. But it became much more mature over time. And then only in the last decade and a half, 2 decades, we started talking about product management. We started talking about UX design. So this is almost like the next level. So that's the first thing I'm seeing. The second thing I'm seeing is also we have a tendency always to start doing before thinking or before planning. And it's true for software development. You start writing code before you even think what is it that you want to build, or how do you architect this thing and what will work and be sustainable or scalable. Then we got to the level of, okay, let's start planning these things. And in the planning, it's not just about project management, it's about what is the real problem we're trying to solve, and how do we find the right problem and all of that, and how do we design to that. So this is more of the product management and the UI. But this is going even more detail, and you're talking about it in the book, to really plan ahead and do the right research ahead for the entire experience, not just for the product, not just for the UI, etc.
Yeah, and that's a big part. Absolutely, you're yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a tendency to jump into solutions, and we all know it. And again, these are things that a lot of people say, yeah, we know we're doing too much solutioning. We know we're running too, and then I go, well, so if you know that, if you think that's not a good idea, what's your process to mitigate? What's your process to change? What's your process to get there? And are we getting better at that? Which is the whole point of, for me, why I wrote the book ultimately, is that I need to get better at this. We need to all get better at this as a field, and we need to start planning, doing more research, absolutely, but also recognize the complexities of the design of a product. So instead of what I'm hearing a lot of is people talk about human-centered design, and yes, it's a process I'm intimately familiar with, of course, and I know all the steps. And then at some point it got sort of overtaken by the design thinking approach. But even when you look at design thinking, if you look at the steps there, they're primarily product driven. And people go, they're about making products better, which is, there's nothing wrong. Well, there's a lot to be said about the process, but there's nothing wrong about the intent of that process. It's absolutely the right intent. We try to make products better by looking at people, understanding people, empathize, getting to prototype, getting to go design, getting to test. All those steps are great and really nothing to really argue against too much, but they're focused around the product and they're not focused around what else is there. And that's because the complexity is that the product doesn't sit, like I said earlier, in of itself. It's not just in isolation. It's in connection with other products and other services. So why don't we say that out loud? We need to design our service. We need to design our product. And we need to understand that these are different processes. Service design as a field struggles with this because service design as a field doesn't really have a unique process. And what they did, they adopted design thinking as their process, as a primary process. When you look at service designers right now, if you ask them, what kind of process do you follow? They will start to quickly talk about human-centered design, but also very much design thinking. That's their process to get to service design, which I would argue, well, if it's a product, I get that you do design thinking because that's where it works. But if it's a service, don't you have to think about it succinctly? Saying there's characteristics in service design that are unique, that are not like what design thinking is promoting. And why don't we have a service design process? And that really made me think about, so, well, if that's true, and I pose that it is true, that we need a product design process, which is more akin to design thinking. We need a service design process, and we need to keep going. Because these two are really important, but there's more to it. And there's two more that I describe in the book that I find critical in this. One of them is content. And especially nowadays, content is big. A lot of products out there are based solely on content. If you look at ChatGPT, it's all about content. Yes, it's the engine, but really what we're doing is we talk to it in content. Netflix is content. Facebook is content. Lots of products, and I just have the list is very long, of course. Lots of content is out there that is basically the product, is the service, and so we have to deal with that too. And so I start to think, well, so if we have a product design process, we have a service design process, why don't we also have a content design process? And because people, especially in the content area, content strategy, content design, content management, content governance, those people are always left off because they're seen as second tier to UX and to product design, even, I would say. But we need a process for them as well.
Yeah. Just a thought over there, and we'll get to the fourth item. I know there is a fourth item as well. But with the content design, just as a side note here, do you feel that with Gen AI recently being so blown up, and the main thing about Gen AI is content, because it's creation of new content or curation of content, or just using the help of the Gen AI to get your content better, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So do you feel there is more emphasis on that these days or not yet?
Well, I think we're all discovering what generative AI does and what it can do. I think
Right.
we're very hamstrung right now with the interface of the whole thing. Because I don't know about you, but it gets pretty tired to fill in that little one-liner, copy and pasting stuff in there, writing your prompt, trying again, trying again. And it's all through this little, it's like, come on, guys, come on. Just give me something more. Give me something I can, oh, you can save your project now. Oh, that's wonderful. But I give me more. Just, I'm rewriting my prompt all the time because you don't have a way to copy and
So
paste
it's
my
the
prompt.
other problem around that it's only about the content and not about the product design.
Exactly. And so that needs a product design in of itself. That needs to evolve. That thing has a UX, that thing has a product experience. We need to create a product experience. And to that point, which is drastically different from the content design aspect of this, of how it generates content, how you structure the content comes out of it. I've seen now products out there that have a laundry list of prompts designed, and then you have to pick, say, if you want to have somebody looking over your legal contract. This is one thing, one little bot that does it for you. Then there's the hey, you want a new joke? There's another bot. There's another bot. So there's endless bots around that have very little interaction built. But this is again to that point is recognizing there's content design and there's content management and there's content research and content strategy, content everything, and there's product design. It's this distinct thing, and they can influence each other in different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're essentially building blocks, though. They work together to form something.
They do, but they have a distinct process to get there. They have a distinct design process to make them optimal, working optimally. And so I started to move beyond the content into the fourth area that I also talk about in the book, which I thought is a very distinct area, and in a lot of businesses is seen as something completely different, even though it highly influences product and services and content design, which is brand. And brand is something that traditionally has been seen as, oh yeah, we have the marketing and the communication team and our sometimes the corporate office, they deal with brand. And then we have a separate agency that do the brand work for us. And then whatever they come up with is then plastered over all our products, all our services, all the experiences that people have. And I'm going, but that really influences my experience. The user experience, the customer experience, the product experience, the service experience are highly influenced by the choices that are made at the brand level. Not just simply the logo and the colors, but also the tagline, the voice, the demeanor. We all know, and brand is, we all feel it because we all talk about brand. When we talk about Apple or any other product, we talk as much about their brand as we talk about their products. They're connected.
One and the same.
And often the brand is the first thing you see. I mean, even if you haven't used the product, that's the first thing you're witness to.
So I thought, why aren't these things more connected in an intentional way? Why aren't we talking about brand design as an integral part to product design, as an integral part to the experience that we're having? So we need to connect the brand as much, because the brand promise, I would argue, is the first step into product design. If you start to create a brand promise as an organization, as a company, or even as a team for a product, that's when you start to do your product strategy. And that's where it starts to manifest itself and say, so what is our brand promise here? But a lot of product people, as you know, won't talk about brand because they just give it as, well, yeah, and then we stick the logo somewhere. Or then we have to use our 5 colors that are not enough for our product, because our product really needs 40 colors to manifest itself in all the variations that's in there. We all know, well, why do we have this shade of blue or shade of red or shade? Well, that's not in the brand, so we can't. And then the products look unusable sometimes because it impacts the usability too. But it definitely impacts the whole perception I have of the brand. So good companies that understand the connection, they see that the brand needs to be extended onto the product, onto the service, onto the experience that people are having day to day. And so that was the number 4 that I saw as, well, we need to look at that succinctly. We have to talk about it. We have to say, this is also design thinking. Ergo experience thinking, because I need to elevate it up. to say this is not just about design anymore. This is about the experience that we all have holistically, starting with the brand, going to content, going to product and to service, and make that connection.
Yeah, I can say that from a personal experience reading the book and going through it, the brand design was the one that I probably knew the least about and learned the most about, and also appreciated how you actually put it first because it influenced the rest. It influenced the product, it influenced the design of the product. It influenced the service. It influenced everything.
Yeah.
So it's really, and the content. In the past, I usually thought it as the content as, and that's how I worked with my designers. I thought about it, and I think some companies are doing it that way, as the designer problem. Like, and I know some companies, they have like a copy designer or something like that.
Yep.
So they will determine the voice, the tone, the type of words we're using and stuff like that. In the good companies that I worked with that had that. Most
Yep.
companies didn't have that. And then I had to struggle as a product manager to decide what wording are we going to use here, and is this the right wording? And if I didn't do that, the developers just put their own wording in there, and it usually looks like it is like, a developer language. So I always kind of promoted a more holistic way to, but I only went all the way to the designer. I never went to the branding. And usually the designers that did the branding of the company were the marketing designers. They were not the same people as the designers on the team designing the product. So I did see that disconnect over there.
Yeah, and we find that often in our projects that we do is that is a conversation that comes up. Because I don't know about you, but I've had several, like more than 10 projects over the years where we started to do the UX of a product or a service, but primarily product. And then we started at some point, we brought up this whole brand aspect. Because oftentimes the brand, like I said before, the brand guidelines are just not enough for the product. When you want to design a good product from a UX and from a visual perspective, and even from an interaction and information design perspective, you need more. And so we go, well, can we massage the brand? And then, we're not in charge of brand. You can't change the brand. But I said, well, we need to, because do you want a good experience? Yes, we do. Well, this is too constraining. We need to expand. Can we talk to the brand people? Who are they? And to your point, Moshe, it's now communications, marketing, some random other, not random, but the other part of the organization that is not we don't have control over that. We don't have connections with them, and let alone talking about voice. Because how many products are not created and written from a content perspective in the wrong voice? That is not matching the brand, that's not matching the product, that's not matching the company. And then when you look at that and say, oh, this is odd. I thought you were the friendly company. And now you're talking to me like you're mad at me. It's like, well, somebody completely different, and they were not aware of the brand voice, and they were not aware of the brand work that was done before to make that all happen. So we communicate one way from a customer perspective, and when we learn about the product, and as you're saying, yeah, that's the first thing you see. And then when you finally get to the point where you use the product, then the voice changes. Which is, for me, the whole point of starting to write the book, is say we need to talk about this design process as being more than the singular UI, UX.
Yeah.
It's connected, and it's not as simple as we want it to be. Not everything can be solved with design thinking. Not everything can be solved with human-centered design or all those processes, and then all the software processes. Lean UX, agile UX is like, oh no, it's still too narrow. You're just looking through this lens of just product. You need to broaden this up. You have to recognize that these processes have happened in the past. You're using them to design your products, and you need to start to incorporate that in your thinking and say, let's acknowledge that this design processes, there are multiple. What about you as an organization? Have you put these side by side? Have you put them next to each other and say, is my brand design aligning with my content design, aligning with my product design, and with my service design?
Yeah, and the survey is talking about that as well. It was always an afterthought. Oh, we need to support this product also, so let's just slap some support on it, and it will work, right?
Absolutely.
Or stuff like that, right? And then we need to sell this product as well. Oh, let's do some sales on that, and we need to market this product. So it's I do see really the point in what you're saying, experience. It's a full experience, and you mentioned it also in the beginning that sometimes that, or most times, this experience is not just about one product, it's multiple products, really. So we are just part of an ecosystem of products that people are using, even though we want them to use our product as much as possible, and we see our product in the center of the world and stuff like that. It is an ecosystem.
And I think absolutely, and I think that the a product manager is one of those key roles. Not even a product owner, I would say. Product owner is for me still too narrow because it's Scrum, it's a little bit still design thinking, it's still product. I think product managers need to be aware of this process, need to hear this story, and need to start feeling ownership for that overall process and saying, I'm in charge of brand, content, service, and product. And like you said, support and training and rollouts, which I think a lot of product managers discover as they go. And especially when I worked in bigger organizations, I worked a lot with product management around that to say there's a lot of balls to keep in the air.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but you have to be. So I think product managers need to be very process savvy to understand that these processes are all at play, and they need to be governed, they need to be managed, they need to be understood, they need to be connected, they need to be talked about, and not just focus on this product thing.
That's
And
great. Yeah, that was one of
eventually,
my questions. That was like a follow-up I had. I was thinking about this as like an onion, and then product and design are at the middle, but it's all still an onion at the end of the day. So you
It
can
is.
peel back the layers, but like we exist in this layer of the onion. But you have to think about the brand and the content, and then the service, and you have to, like, as a PM, you do have to think about all these different layers that go beyond you.
And so that's why my argument is around. So in the visual that you see in the book, I use a cube, and in the center there's a dot. The dot in the center is the brand, because a lot of brand people will feel unheard sometimes because they say, well, brand is everything. Well, yes, it is, and it's not. But I can see brand starts a lot of thinking because it's at the organizational level usually the first expression of some design, of something that connects emotionally and starts to get the journey going around, hey, what are we about, what are our values, what's our voice, how do we see the world, and how we want to change the world. So in that sense, brand is the center, and that's why it's the ball in the middle, but it's also covered by the product thinking, it's covered by service thinking, it's covered by, because it permeates everything in that sense. That's why I put it in the center, but you don't see it often because when we use products, we don't think about brand. We just hold up our phone and we use our phone. And it's not that, oh, this is Android, this is the Google brand. It's not. No, it's not. It's just a phone.
That's really good. And I also like the point about the ecosystem. So from a strategy perspective, I'm thinking about how I could apply this, thinking you might have a product that's a point solution, or you might be a platform. And so you have to think about it holistically and how your customers and users are seeing your brand, seeing how your brand can impact their work. And if you want to kind of break free of this point solution and not be like, oh, you just do this one thing, and be like, hey, we're actually a platform and we do a bunch of things. We're trying to think about how you break free of that with this framework.
But I think it's recognizing all these things and start to talk about it.
Yeah.
So one thing I really hope that the book does. So the book is not, some people that pick up the book and they go, well, you're not telling me exactly how to do things. And I said, that's not the intent. My intent is to level it up to the framework level, to say, I'd like you to give yourself the chance to learn about different aspects to your product that you may or may not have connected as clearly. And you have to recognize that each of these areas have different processes to design for, to strategize, research, design, and build for. So recognizing that and become the guardian of the process, more so than jumping into one solution or one way of thinking. And that's why design thinking has, as I think, has gone sideways in a sense, is that it's so overtaking all the thinking, and human-centered design too, is that overtaking it's a one size fits all. It's like that process does it all. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's a lot of things that you still have to do. And when you do brand design, it's a very distinct process from content design, very distinct from product design. And product design is more design thinking. And so when you follow there, okay, do that, but recognize these different elements So Matt, when you say platform design or product design, so even platform design, I would say, okay, so what are the processes involved in creating a platform? And I wouldn't be surprised at all when you see differences there. And you go, well, if I'm designing for a platform, I'm doing X, Y, Z. If I'm designing a product, I do X, Y, Z, A, and it's different. And so that recognition and that the complexity in the design process that is there, without trying the silver bullet, because I get too many companies asking me about, so how do you design stuff? You're using design thinking, right? And then I go, yeah, for parts of it, but not for all of it. What do you mean not for all of it? Isn't the latest greatest design thinking? You have to do that. It's like, yeah, okay. And then the conversation starts. And then, but I find sometimes I'm too early with this because people are still grabbing onto this whole new experience design stuff and design thinking and all that. They're not ready for the next step up, which is this. So that's partly why I think product managers are so well suited to do this. If they start to recognize this and start to talk about it and start to create their own frameworks, because there's more to it. I mean, I think I've chosen the 4 major ones in my mind, but of course, to your point, Moshe, yeah, it is training, it is support, it is early on customer marketing things. There's a lot of these processes that are at play here. Somebody needs to connect them. Somebody needs to see the connectedness of all these experiences.
Yeah. So usually when I talk about this, I talk about like preparedness to go to market. So what do we need to do to make the product, ready to go to market? I don't want to be the project manager for that. There's millions of other project managers out there that can move all the dots around, and I need the help of each department to do what they're good at. So marketing are good at like putting out marketing messages and putting out campaigns and all of that stuff. And the support department is good at putting out the how do we support these and the agents for that and the process and all of that stuff. But I want to make sure they know the product and they know how it works. So part of it is education, and part of it is to be ready for when we launch it and what to do and all of that stuff. But what I learned from you is that this is a whole part of an experience that we as an organization are giving to our clients. And actually, I also learned the distinction between customer and clients, because to me it was the same in my head. Customer and clients is always the same. Users and clients, it's two different, or users and customers, it's two different things, and we know that. The customers are the one paying for it. The users are the one using it. So in B2B, it's different people. In B2C, it's the same person in different stages. But clients are those that are repeating repeating customers, right? So we wow them, and once we wow them, now they're repeating their clients because they're coming in again and again to use our product.
Absolutely.
So that's a good distinguish over there. I like that, how you put that in there. But going back to what I said before, it's really about not just about the go-to-market, it's a full experience that we are creating for our clients, users, customers, etc., etc.
It is, and so one of the things I've been talking about lately is this idea of the omni experience. And so people talk about omni-channel a lot, and they say, well, we have to be omni-channel. We have to show that we're using all the channels from a customer perspective, of course, when we're in the sales funnel or in the engagement funnel. And so yes, we have to do that. But then when you look at omni experiences, it's looking at understanding that it doesn't stop there. And to your earlier point, was around clients. A lot of teams are looking for those loyal clients. Nobody likes to sell all cold call, reach out, engage. We want to sell again to the same people, and we wonder, why are you leaving? Well, you're not giving me the value anymore, or you change your product in a way that look at Sonos, for example. I mean, it's just a classic in how things can go wrong if you really take your eye off the ball, which is really what they did in spades, and it has a massive impact to that company right now. But looking at that, they have such loyalty because we're so everybody loves. Oh, it's so simple, it works, until it doesn't. And now everybody goes, why do you have these boxes here? I'm going to go somewhere else. It will have a very big trickle effect. It wasn't small. They make a bid bet on something, and they truly didn't understand the design process.
Yeah.
Because if they understood all the different design parts of what they did, they would obviously never have done that. But they were so pressured to create more products and churn out more things that they said, well, let's do it anyway. Like in the classic software way, we'll solve it after it's in market because you can just update our software.
Yeah.
It's such always a cop out to say, okay, we're going to do suboptimal experiences, but it's fine because it's software. Just release 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll solve it all. And people will bear with us as we solve our stuff, which I'm going, wow. You should talk to hardware people a bit more often and say, oh yeah, we'll just churn out some hardware that's crappy, but hey, we'll solve the release 4, 5, 6. No, there is no release 4, 5, 6 in hardware, so it doesn't work that way. So it's that thinking in software would be healthy, I think, for some software people to learn about.
Yeah. What I would encourage product managers, because while you were talking about that, I was thinking also about my own experiences with some products that I used or some services that I used, and why I churned, why I left them. And many times it was because either they didn't fulfill the promise that I thought they're going to have, so the product wasn't really delivering, or their service was really bad. And this is especially with a commodity. Like when you have a product that is a commodity, that you can replace it very easily with another one, then the product is not enough. It's just not enough. And you have to have some unique value proposition on other things. And some of it is the service. Some of it is the the content you're giving me. I left Netflix not because their service or the product was bad, but the content, I just like, okay, I had enough. You raise the prices on me. There are other places that I can get other content you don't have. So it was very easy for me to leave them. So we can take this our own experiences like that and think about it more holistically to say why me as a customer I churned, or even as a client. I was a happy client for many years, and then I decided, no, I'm not a client anymore, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the core idea around connected experiences, and also looking at omni experiences too, is that all of them are important. We can't just put all our eggs in one basket to say our product is amazing, but our service is not, and vice versa. The content is not good, or all those balls need to stay up high, and you need to manage them actively to stay high quality in all of them. And that's a non-trivial problem. That's a non-trivial thing to do. And to your point, Moshe, around product managers owning some of this, I think they're key elements of it. But as you were talking, you said, yeah, product managers too. I find product managers are a wide range of people, because some people are very much on the times and the deadlines and resourcing angle. And some other product managers are much more aware of the process they're going through. And if you are one of those, I would say, yeah, this is also for them. This is also understanding where you're going, and connecting these different experiences as a project manager would be invaluable as well. Because I think you are right. There's multiple people that need to pull through all these elements, and it's complex. It's a lot happening at the same time, and project managers have definitely a good overview.
Yeah, it's a teamwork for sure. Based on where you are and what you're seeing throughout your career and what you're seeing today in the market, where do you feel is the experience design or experience thinking in general is? Like, do people get it, or it's still very like not there yet?
I think there's two streams that I see primarily, and two trends I see primarily. One is that this is still a rapidly growing field. So there's a lot of people in a hurry to get in, and they change careers, they change their backgrounds, and they try to get in, which is, I applaud. I think it's great. Yes, the more the merrier. It does have a strain on their knowledge. I find that the knowledge level is going down to a degree. Is that people have went to some conferences, hear the same people talk about certain way of looking at this field, and they don't have the experience. So when they come into the workplace, and they actually do projects and they realize the complexities that it comes with product design and with how to do this right, they're just falling flat. They just go, I don't know. I thought isn't that word? It's like this thing. No, you have to be a really good designer. You have to be a really good coder. You have to be a really good researcher. You have to be a really good strategist. That takes time. And so I find there's more of that there's pressure on the knowledge level, I find. So it needs more education, it needs more talking, it needs more evolving. And I do find that the field has been stagnant in that regard a bit. People are just coasting and going, design thinking, it solves it all. Just talk to people, it's good enough, and they just keep at it, and they hire the product designer, who is the unicorn, of course, for UX. Like, well, no, there's too much happening there. So that's on the one end. On the other end, other companies didn't stand still. They have evolved. They have getting more sophisticated. So there's a real need of highly advanced, highly knowledgeable people that can help these companies move forward, because they get it. They do it. They have hundreds of people working in this space, and they know it, and they have a mature product management process as well. They know how to do it. So they're waiting for the next cohort to come in to help them, and they're not there. So I see them struggle. So I see the pyramid getting narrower instead of getting wider, that more people do the things. I see the pyramid of knowledge getting narrower, because these companies are picking up the good ones. They're picking up the ones that know how to do this right, because they're competing heavily on personalization. And now, of course, with AI is bringing in, what does it mean really? And looking at content ultimately it's evolving so rapidly that we need really good people. And so I see, but it's happening. So the good thing about that is that there's these companies out there that are really top, that are really very good at what they're doing, and they're getting there. And then there's this sort of gap, and then I see the mid-level to lower level knowledge people figuring it out. Unfortunately, for everybody who's outside of the field, you can't see the difference. You can't distinguish between the two. You go, oh, you're using the same words, so you must know the same thing.
Yeah.
So now we're just competing on price and time. No, we're vastly different in knowledge. But being stubborn and shouting loud and going, you need to listen to me, I know it better. Yeah, but it's the same word as this person. So it's you get that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe my last question, do you see there is a space, or maybe there are already out there, in addition to have product managers in organizations, to have experience managers?
So that's ironic. Yeah, that's a good question, because you see CXOs. I don't know, you see CPOs, you see chief product officers, you see CXOs as well, chief experience officers. I'm always intrigued when I look at an organization that has both and go, hey, how's this working for you? Because there's huge overlap between the two. And I think there's a fundamental there's overlap, and then there's a real distinction. CXOs, depending where they come from, CXOs either come from marketing, and so they have a very customer focus, or they come from human factors, UX backgrounds, and so they have a very much a research focus and a human research focus. CPOs are typically more technical or more creative. So they have ideas, they have a vision, they want to go places. And of course, you need both. You can't just rely on listening to people until the cows come home and hope that you get the right product. That's not how it works. You need creativity, you need a good process, you need aha moments, and you need listening to people and customers and users and clients. But when I see both in one company, I usually see a break, because then one of the two is not there anymore 6 months later. Because there's a philosophy clash. There's an idea that we need. So I find when I look at CXOs, I wish there were more of them, but recognize that we need to work together. Say there's a product side of this, there's a product design aspect of this that is real, that we need to solve. And then there's an experiential aspect of this that we also need to solve. But we need to connect and we need to work together on that. But I see there's a philosophy clash.
Interesting. No, that's very cool. No, I do encourage everyone that is listening to us to check out the book. Again, it's called Experience Thinking, Creating Connected Experiences. It's a very good-looking book, on top of very educational and really structured, well, and really simple also. to read and consume. Matt, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just one last question. I guess as a product manager, I'm trying to think about how I could implement this in my daily life, how I can get other stakeholders aligned with me. Because I work with marketing, sales, success. And so trying to bring all this together and bring all these people together to think about the experience holistically, what might be a good initial step in that process that I could take?
Yeah, and no, that's a great question. And I think and I talk a bit about it in the book. So one of the major vehicles to align everybody with is the journey. Is doing the experiential journey, saying end to end. What does it mean from very start, from learning about your brand, which is a lot of people don't start with that. They start with selling the product.
Yeah.
No, learning about your brand is your first step until the very last time you ever encounter that organization as a whole, which usually is in support, because that's end of life. So it's way beyond any of the foci that people have, which is more around the product.
Yeah.
And more so, a lot of journeys that I see are not just focused just on the product, they also just focus on the selling part. So the customer part, it's about engagement. They say, hey, let's do a journey. And we really only talk about how do we get people to buy our product? And then once they have it, then we stop. We don't actually have a journey. Oh yeah, and then later on we have a journey again about support, because then stuff goes wrong and then we need a support journey. But in the middle, there's a use journey.
Yes.
And I'm going, really? So, okay, product managers, please start to see this holistically. Start to see the journey as the glue to everything, quote unquote everything, but it is everything. See it pre-sales, because it's brand, it's all the other products, all the history that you have, the perception you have in the marketplace, all influences that first step into selling, which is the customer experience primarily, and engagement, and then into the product experience, which is when you use it and how you change your mind, because the product doesn't deliver anymore to the brand promise. But that's a journey still all the way to support and training and then end of life. So it's looking at all of those. So the glue really is the journey. So that's number one. The second thing is the journey needs to be researched. I see way too many people sitting in a room workshopping their way through a journey. And you have to ask yourself, what did we base this on? It's our opinion. So what else is new? We all base we think, so what if the customer does? What if the user does? We have some story to justify our journey, and we think we're doing a kick-ass job. Yeah. You're not. You're doing only half of the job, which is, sure, I want to listen to your opinion. I want to learn what you know. Absolutely, that's the first step. Step two, learn. Go out, talk to customers, talk to users, talk to clients. Figure out is what you said is actually true. Not let them design for you. This is another thing that people tend to do. It's like, no, they don't see the future. You see the future, and you're in the best position to see the future. But they can look back. They can tell you what was there, what was before, what is currently their problems and their needs. But listen to that as well. So that's a two-sided thing to say, tell me what you know, listen to the other people, bring them together, and then create a synthesized version of that to say, but it's the journey. So gluing the journey, the things together, listen, research, and creation.
That's excellent. Yeah, because I was thinking about brand experience. Like if you go to a store, you see the brand on top of the name of the business. You walk in the door. Once you're inside the door, if you're not tracking it through like user research, product analytics, you're not understanding how people travel through the aisles, pick up and look at demos and stuff. If you're not monitoring that, and that's where the tools that Moshe and I talk about come in. If you're just picking them up on checkout and when they actually purchase something, you're missing a whole spectrum of like, what are they actually doing inside the store, like in the business? So, but thinking about the entire journey from I see a store name, I go inside, I look around, I actually buy something or don't buy something, and then I walk out. So that's really cool.
And realizing that you may not have all the answers. And that's okay. That's not an affront to you as a specialist, as an expert. It's just recognizing there's gaps in our knowledge. There's gaps in our knowing, which is okay. Find out, go out, ask. It's our main research technique is to talk to somebody, which is like, well, so you need to get up your chair, you need to get out of your house, you need to get out of your office, and you need to have to meet some people. For some people, that's scary. I get that. So get a specialist in to do that for you, to help them and get them to help you in that process. But it's doable. People love to talk to other people, and once they get going, like we're talking today, you're asking me specific questions about things I know. People love to talk about these things. They're not afraid to tell you, well, really, and they're not just complaining. Because some teams are really averse to it because they think, they're just going to complain about the stuff they don't have. Yes, they will the first 10 minutes, but then after that, you will get golden stuff. You will get nuggets to go, oh, yeah, of course we should do that. Things you've never, ever thought of yourself.
Absolutely.
And so building that and this is back to the whole design process as a whole, is saying research is an integral part of the design process. And it needs to be connected, but it needs to be managed. But recognize first as a journey, that's really where you start.
I think it's also okay to take that journey and to work with our stakeholders in the different departments and to say who owns which part of the journey. And then there is a much more clear understanding about, we're not taking the job from you. Don't worry. I don't want to replace anyone in marketing or in customer success or customer support, but it's more about, we're creating as a team a holistic experience to our clients and users, and therefore we need to take some ownership on some of these areas. So some things are owned by this department, some things are owned by this department, some things maybe we have to work on together, whatever it is, as long as there is collaboration and transparency and everyone knows what's going on and we're working towards the same goal, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And that's what you see in mature organizations happen, is that they start to take the journey as their main lead, to connect both internally and externally when you look at their markets, to make those experiences better.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tedde. That was that was a great discussion, and I'm really glad that I met you here in Toronto, and I learned about your book, and we're able to have you on the show. Where can people reach out to you if they want to learn more or just to have a chat with you?
So simply look for my either use my email or look for the company Akendi. It's pretty easy to get. When you send even just our generic email to our generic address, we're not a huge company, so it will reach me as well. So I will see it and we'll follow up. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who wants to learn more.
Perfect. Should they look for you also on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm there. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Tedde. This was an excellent conversation and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. So thank you for that. Thank you, Moshe. Thank you to all the listeners, and we'll talk to everybody next time.
Right.
Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.